issued an MD. Oh, it's for the launch. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Okay, you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm meteorologist Corey Thompson.
I'm meteorologist AJ Rickman.
And we're here monitoring showers and storms that are moving into northern Iowa in particular, generally along and north of Highway 20 for now, but starting to see a little bit of development a little farther south than that. But it's one little cluster up in the northern two tiers of counties in the state where there are some severe thunderstorms moving through and a couple of warnings in effect right now. Watch includes more of us, though, all the way down to Highway 30.
Yeah, it's all part of what's going to be a fairly active day of weather, again, kind of along and north of that Highway 30 corridor. Right now, as we've kind of expected, Highway 20 is getting the shower and storm action first, but as we go through the rest of this afternoon and evening, we are expecting that to spread a little farther south, eventually impacting really the entire northern half of the viewing area. We've talked about this for the last couple of days now where that threat is there for strong to severe storms, primarily a damaging wind and hail threat, but as we often see at this time of year, can't rule out an isolated tornado either.
It does look like a secondary threat, but we'll get into that in just a second. But first, let's get into what's going on right now. Pinpoint Doppler radar shows area of thunderstorms. You can see it. It is sort of a loosely organized line up in northern Iowa, and a couple of warning boxes there included with that. So a severe thunderstorm warning was just recently issued for portions of Winneshiek as well as Howard, all of Chickasaw and northwestern Fayette County. This goes until 2:15 this afternoon. 60-mile-per-hour winds and quarter-sized hail are possible with these storms based on the National Weather Service's analysis. That seems consistent, and we have seen some reports off to the west of some wind, I believe, primarily with the storms as they moved through the Mason City area, which would be kind of one of the bigger population spots recently. Now, of course, there's still storms affecting Charles City, too. This warning for Floyd County goes until 1:30, I believe, and that will be pretty much all of Floyd County, Charles City, Floyd, Marble Rock, all included, and for the same threat, 60-mile-per-hour winds and quarter-sized hail. So let's put a quick storm track on it, show you where things are headed. The latest indication are these storms are moving to the east at about 40 miles per hour. So we'll go ahead and add that to the leading edge of these storms, and we'll even take them out a little bit farther than where this warning exists. So New Hampton, you've got about 10 minutes before you get into the heavier rain and gustier winds. Cresco at about 1:33, which is right on the edge of that warning at the northern side of it in Howard County. Fredericksburg at about 1:40. Kalmar at about 1:55. Decorah at 1:59. West Union at about 2:10. And now we're starting to get out of that warning. So West Union, you're not in it right now. We get over toward Waukon at about 2:23. Monona at 2:35. Lansing up along the Mississippi at 2:41. And Prairie du Chien at 2:54. So it is an eastward motion pretty much as these storms progress. Put the radar in motion. You can see decently eastward as well, and seeing some new development as well south of the line segment that is warned right now. You can see there's a little bit down extending all the way even into Marshall County. See if that fills in any. Also ahead of it on a little boundary out here on Highway 20, there is some scattered development that is intriguing because they're individual cells and on a little boundary. So we always look at those types of things with critical eye, just in case they try to rotate and turn into something that could produce a brief tornado. Again, as we said, the threat for that's a little bit secondary today, but it's not zero. And so we're just keeping an eye on that in total. Severe thunderstorm watch continues for areas along and north of Highway 30. As we mentioned, this was recently issued. It goes until 7 o'clock tonight. As storms are likely to be fairly slow moving and take their time to move through in general. And so we are seeing those gradually move off to the east. AJ, lots of heat, lots of humidity. That's been the truth all week, but we're finally starting to see some of these storms get involved too.
We are, and it was only a matter of time before we started to see storms taking advantage of all this warmth, all this humidity. Dew points right now are just sweltering. 77 in Fayette, 77 in Charles City, 75 in Cedar Rapids. In addition to your dew points, of course, it's quite warm as well, as we have all felt over the last several days. Temperatures right now across eastern Iowa, 88 in Cedar Rapids, 91 in Iowa City. Decorah and Charles City are currently under the influence of some of those clouds, some of that storm activity as well, so that's keeping them a little cooler. Same with Waterloo and Fayette, where some scattered cloud cover at this point is what's keeping their temperatures a little on the cooler side. But for areas south of Highway 30 that aren't going to get in on that storm action today, it's going to be hot. In fact, there is an extreme heat warning that is in effect for areas along and south of that Highway 30 corridor. So I'll take just a second to kind of take a very brief detour and talk a little bit about that heat, just because it has been so intense and has been lasting for such a long time. Again, that extreme heat warning along and south of the Highway 30 corridor as we go through the rest of the day today. So you're going to want to make sure that you are taking it seriously, and even if you're outside of that extreme heat warning, hydrate and make sure that you are paying attention to your body, not overexerting yourself, and taking that seriously as well. But in addition to the heat and the humidity, of course, storms are taking advantage of it. Right now, they're kind of riding along the northern edge of the highest of the heat. We tend to call that a ring of fire weather pattern, and well, that puts the active storm track right over the top of us today, and storms are taking advantage of the environment that they're given. So has led to kind of like what we're seeing here, some of this scattered activity starting to pop up. And we are going to continue to watch for this activity to continue to roll through and impact areas south of where it currently is too. It'll move south from Highway 20 down towards the Highway 30 and Interstate 80 corridors by the time we get to this evening.
For sure. And we are watching, of course, things on our CityCam network. It's trying to get the Waterloo, Cedar Falls CityCam panned around a little bit and just sort of taking a look at things. Now, it's a little bit hazy out there because of all that moisture. We're starting to get a little bit of maybe just a hint of smoke from wildfires out west too, but not enough to cause real serious air quality concerns. But Waterloo, Cedar Falls, kind of on the edge of where all that development is taking place around you. You can see those big towering cumulus clouds off to the north here. Bear with me as I pan off to the left a little bit, and you'll see more development just kind of ongoing. Lots of clouds rising up into the sky pretty quickly, as unlike yesterday where the cap on the atmosphere held and limited our severe weather activity, today it does not appear to be the same case. And so instead we will have the opportunity for storms into the afternoon. There's one look. It's kind of obscured by the housing that the camera is set on, but you can see the base of the storm developing in north central Blackhawk County. Nothing terribly concerning there at this point in terms of something ominous like a wall cloud or any other thing like that, but something that we'll be watching closely as well. Parkersburg, another spot where we're seeing ominous skies, and certainly skies have turned overcast and hurry there in just the last little while. So that is something to keep an eye on too. They are currently outside of thunderstorms, but there is a pretty good one off to the west over toward Ackley, just about to cross into Butler County. Cedar Falls again, Decorah. You will get some of these heavier storms as they move in. Right now it's calm, but those storms are on the way, and you are in that severe thunderstorm warning that goes until 2:30. Waverly, one check. This is pointed to the south, but again, it's just kind of in the area where development's kind of happening all around you. And right now you're dodging storms. There's one, but it looks like you may not dodge the storms that are forming to the west, and they're continuing to congeal. So that is something to watch out for there too. It looks like, AJ, you've got a look possibly ahead at how these storms could evolve using Pinpoint Futurecast.
I am kind of looking ahead as we get towards the 4 o'clock hour. These storms are, well, by this point, we'll have had a couple of hours to kind of congeal. Let's look at a model that'll give us a little bit more of a exact time frame of where we currently are. Not Thursday at 11 p.m. We don't need to see what these storms are going to be doing in 10 hours. We need to see what they're going to be doing, well, right now. Let's try switching around to a different model here. Here we go. So as we go through the rest of the day today, these showers and storms that currently, as we look at the getting towards the 2 o'clock hour, again, starting to move into our far northwestern counties, they're expected to, like we talked about, continue to impact areas along and north of Highway 21st. But as we go through the rest of your evening, they're going to continue to spread across the northern portions of the viewing area. By the time we get to 5 and 6 o'clock, That's when they're forecast to make it south of Highway 20, and then they'll work their way down towards Highway 30, especially near Tama, starting to make their way into Cedar Rapids as we get towards your 8 and 9 o'clock hour tonight. But we've talked about these storms are already starting to congeal into a bit of a line, and that's a trend that we're going to be continuing to monitor through the rest of the afternoon. As these storms grow and develop into a more organized line, that's where you develop more of a straight line wind threat as they continue to feed off the warm, moist air that's provided to them. And we'll be watching for that, again, damaging wind threat primarily, with the threat for some hail mixed in there as well as we go through the rest of the evening. By the time we get to 10, 11 o'clock tonight, starting to see that shower and storm activity stretch as far south as the Interstate 80 corridor. And then through the overnight hours, well, we're going to continue to see those showers and storms move through. By 4 o'clock Friday, getting a little bit of a break, it looks like, but just off to the northwest, you'll notice there's another complex of showers and storms that could move through by dawn on Friday and give us another round of some shower and storm activity. So an active stretch in our weather pattern that's coming up, with a couple of chances for some strong to severe storms there. So a good time to make sure you've got your weather radios turned on, make sure that they're receiving warnings for your area. Also a good time to make sure that you've got your First Alert weather app turned on and receiving warnings. Those are personalized to your location. Overall, just a good day to stay weather aware. If not for the heat, for areas south of Interstate 80, for the storms and that severe risk for areas primarily north of Interstate 80.
Yep, that's for sure. And storms ongoing right now with a couple of warnings. The big one for Chickasaw County as well as northwestern Fayette, much of Winneshiek County and southern Howard County. These storms, the most organized section of that area up in northeast Iowa right now, currently still posing what appears to be a damaging wind threat as a primary risk. Some hail could be embedded. I've had a couple of reports that the National Weather Service have relayed in terms of smaller hail, but nothing too ominous, at least at this point. We're going to use our velocity view to take a look at the storm and just show you an area, just a hint of rotation potentially. It's not exactly in the part of the storm that you would expect it necessarily, so I'm not too worried about it, but it's obviously always worth keeping an eye on anything that looks like it may be rotating. This is in Howard County right now, but it would be generally moving toward Decorah. If not, what could be occurring here is that we're seeing a little bit of enhanced wind developing that could push through portions of Howard County and into western Winneshiek County too. Just a little bit of a hint of that maybe starting to curl out a little bit, and that would at least enhance the wind gusts in that area. So we'll have to monitor that and see if any reports come out of there. But currently it is a severe thunderstorm warning as this continues that direction. Traditional radar view shows that lots of rain is going to be found too, and lots of lightning as we turn on lightning tracker. Plenty to see in terms of that. It's going to take a second to load up, but watch as the loop develops and all those lightning strikes appear on your screen. Tons of it in Chickasaw County in particular, lots in Howard County. That kind of shows that we're seeing a couple of solid areas of storm development within this line. So where that lightning is concentrated kind of talks about that. Tornado warning issued for that area of rotation we were discussing earlier. So we're going to go ahead and pause for a second as we join our KCRG coverage, and we will be right back here on our streaming with that KCRG coverage, so please stand by. Hey Dave, we're going to have to do continuous coverage. All right, thanks. Good afternoon, I'm meteorologist Corey Thompson with this new tornado warning in the area of Howard and Winneshiek County. It goes until 2 o'clock this afternoon. It is for radar indicated rotation that has developed in Howard County that will be tracking to the east. Decorah is just outside of this warning box, but you're very close to it, and this storm is tracking just south of Highway 9 and will make its way into Winneshiek County very, very shortly. This warning also has the potential to, with some quarter-sized hail and a severe thunderstorm warning surrounding it that is for 60-mile-per-hour winds. So multiple threats with these storms as they track off to the east. And so if you live in Ridgeway or other rural areas of Howard and Winneshiek County near the Highway 9 area, you will be wanting to seek shelter immediately. These storms are moving off to the east at about 40 to 45 miles per hour based on the latest information. So we're going to go ahead and develop a storm track here so you know exactly where things are headed as this storm makes its way. Right now, we'll add it to a kind of a broader area as the storm tracks to the east, and we'll take it as far east as Decorah to give you an idea. Vernon Springs at about 132, Cresco closer to 135, Ridgeway, as we just mentioned, at about 140. So you have a little over 10 minutes in terms of when this storm will approach. Carlson Stadium, if you know where that's located, that will be at about 153, and that's on the Luther College campus, of course, as it tracks east there, and that gets it into the Decorah area, which, remember, technically not in this warning, but just outside of it. And so if you live in Decorah and are watching us, you'll want to make sure to have a plan in terms of what you need to do with this storm. And that would be seeking shelter immediately. If you're within the warning box, it is pretty simple. Just get to the lowest level of your home, get under something sturdy if you can. That usually helps. And that would be something like a desk, a workbench, anything that can protect your body and especially your head and neck as the storm moves off to the east. Grab your bike helmet. That's a great way to protect your head as well. If not, blankets, pillows, and towels or something soft that would lessen the blow of any sort of falling debris. Avoid windows and doors and outside walls as well as the storm moves through. And if you don't have a basement, the lowest floor of your home is best. If you live in a mobile home, you'll want to abandon that as soon as you can. That is not safe shelter in case of a tornado. We also have a new severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Black Hawk and Bremer counties. This does not include Waterloo, Cedar Falls, but far northeastern Black Hawk and southeastern Bremer County. This goes until 2:15, 60-mile-per-hour winds and quarter-sized hail. But the National Weather Service also does throw on the indicator tornado possible. This storm has been lightly rotating, but at this point, not to a degree that a tornado appears imminent. But you can see that the environment across northeast Iowa in particular is fairly favorable for severe weather. Meteorologist A.J. Rickman is with me as well. He is utilizing Max 3 for our control room's point of view. And he has been looking at some of the details inside of the storm, analyzing it from a distance using radar data. And AJ, what do you see?
Well, Corey, I'm looking at this storm here, and specifically with the tornado warning, the National Weather Service has it issued as a radar indicated tag. And you'll notice up here in the corner of your screen, right in there, it talks about Howard, Winneshiek counties issued, and right there at the bottom, radar indicated. So that is going to be your indicator that the storm is rotating, has enough rotation that the National Weather Service has gone ahead and issued a tornado warning because it could produce a tornado. But what we're looking at right here, this view that we're looking at, is what is officially known as correlation coefficient. Think of it as debris detection. What we're looking for is any kind of a sign of debris that this storm is picking up, and that would indicate that there is a tornado on the ground. Personally, I'm not seeing anything that would indicate evidence that this is picking up debris at this point, which is a good thing and also tracks with what the National Weather Service would indicate with the storm being radar indicated. Switching back over to velocity, that is a look inside the storm at the wind speeds and how fast the winds are blowing. You've got winds that are blowing away from the radar, and the radar site is off to the top right corner of your screen, off to the northeast. But you've got your area of rotation sitting just to the south of Crestco and to the north of Protivin. Right in here, fairly broad area. Again, that would indicate that it's not necessarily imminently producing a tornado, but the rotation is there enough that it could produce a tornado. So treat it, play it safe, treat it as if it is producing one, and like Corey mentioned, get down to your safe place. So we're going to, of course, continue to stay on the air with you and follow along with this storm as long as the warning is active. But again, at this point, looking at a storm that has radar indicated rotation, tornado warned because of that. At this point, again, no definitive proof or evidence that there is a tornado on the ground. But again, kind of just looking back at the traditional radar look, that's what we're looking at with this storm. Heavy rain with it as well, in addition to that threat for rotation that could potentially produce a tornado. It's all part of this larger line of storms that has been tracking through eastern Iowa that we've been tracking on streaming and are now on air with you, keeping tabs on it as it continues to push off towards the east.
Yeah, and it is part of an afternoon where the threat of severe weather is present. A severe thunderstorm watch, if we could take max 1, is in effect until 7 o'clock tonight for areas along and north of Highway 30. Damaging wind still at this point is the primary threat with storms as they move off to the east and develop through the next several hours. Eventually, we may see some southward motion to these storms as they continue to organize, which is why that watch goes all the way down to Highway 30. We're also seeing a little bit of development in the Highway 30 corridor. It's not quite as robust and strong as other parts of the area as these storms head that direction. Overall, the storm activity is near and north of Highway 20 right now. Here's a wide view of pinpoint Doppler radar. A couple of warnings in effect in terms of that tornado warning for portions of Howard and Winneshiek County. That's our primary concern at this hour, but there are a couple of other severe thunderstorm warnings. You can see they're highlighted on your screen. The tornado warning that is in effect. It's a narrow area embedded within a larger line where there is the continued risk for damaging wind and large hail. You can see that it is that small area that's kind of pushing out ahead of this storm. It's moving just south of Highway 9. Ridgeway, it's really moving directly toward you, and as we said just moments ago, it'd be there about 1:40 this afternoon, so just a few minutes away, and it continues its eastward path here. You can see that kind of area that's sticking out, and I'll highlight it here just to emphasize what we're talking about. You always look for, you've maybe heard of something called a hook echo. This is kind of along the same lines, and it's just this area that's sticking out that way. Very small, embedded within that other line, and likely, if there were to be a tornado, it would be embedded within that heavier rain. So chances are you would not see it coming, and so we strongly encourage you to not wait to take shelter because of that. Anytime there's a tornado warning, you should act quickly as conditions can change in a big hurry. And these storms are moving in a pretty decent clip, about 45 miles per hour, and doing so. But you can see it's a broader area in this yellow box that is included in this severe thunderstorm warning, which we'll highlight here as well. That goes until 2:15 for the potential of 70-mile-per-hour winds now. That's a bit of a change from the National Weather Service's last update. So they're seeing a bit more organization with these storms. 1-inch hail also still indicated. And then, of course, we've still got this warning down here in Blackhawk County. This goes until 2:15 for now 70-mile-per-hour. No, I'm sorry, that's the warning up to the north, excuse me. 60-mile-per-hour winds and quarter-sized hail. This storm is tracking generally off to the northeast a little bit, so it's moving slightly differently than the ones that are in Chickasaw, Winneshiek, and Fayette counties. Instead, it's moving off that direction. Reedland getting involved, areas north of Highway 3 in rural eastern Bremer County getting involved too. At this point, Blackhawk County, that small sliver is still included, but the storm has moved out of that portion of the warning, and Blackhawk County is now currently free of rain. But that, of course, could change as we go through the afternoon. AJ, latest updates from the tornado warning, not looking as perhaps as ominous as they were moments ago, which is good, but maybe don't let your guard down just yet.
Absolutely. One of those where you're still with these line of storms as they tend to move through. When you get these tornadoes that form along the front ends of these lines of storms, they typically spin up really, really quickly, but then they also kind of dissipate really quickly. And looking right in here, the area that I'm seeing that looks like it's rotating most strongly is near Cresco, and even that is not particularly threatening looking, at least in terms of being well defined or a very intense rotation. Looks like there is kind of certainly a hint at a broad area of rotation, again kind of centered around the Cresco area. You got your winds blowing away from the radar, winds blowing towards radar, and kind of this broad zone right in here. But again, compared to just a couple of minutes ago, it doesn't look quite as strong, quite as intense. So certainly a good sign there, and we'll hope to continue to see that weakening trend as this storm continues to move off towards Ridgeway. But regardless, you're still going to want to treat this storm with the respect it deserves. As we've talked about, these storms, when you have these lines of storms that can produce tornadoes, it can happen in a hurry. So you want to make sure that you are taking every precaution you can to just get out of the way of it. And keep in mind, it's not just the tornado warning. You've also got this severe thunderstorm warning that is included in this larger area, and that does include several of our counties. That severe thunderstorm warning does include Winneshiek counties. It includes Fayette County, Chickasaw, Howard, And again, that is for this storm that the larger line of storms capable of producing 70-mile-an-hour winds as well as 1-inch hail. We'll switch back to a more traditional radar view there.
Well, let me interrupt you real quick, AJ. We've got, I believe, some video or photo of, it's one of our DOT cameras. Ooh. This is in Howard County, so yeah. Plenty of rainfall taking place and probably some gusty winds going on there too. So just kind of a hint of what these storms may provide, even if outside of any other tornado threat. Certainly don't want to be out in the roads traveling this afternoon if you can help it, if you're within these areas where storms are developing. Obviously, if you're caught out in them, finding some shelter isn't a bad idea, especially if you were within that tornado warning. You should get out of your vehicle and find substantial shelter instead. So thanks to the Iowa DOT for providing us that look from a little bit of a distance there.
Absolutely. And yeah, like you mentioned, really heavy rainfall with these storms, which isn't all that surprising. There's just a ton of moisture in the air. It's been really warm. It's been really humid the last couple of days. Of course, everybody has felt that. And these storms are finally kind of utilizing the environment. They're using that warm, moist air, and boy, they're producing quite a bit of rainfall. And we've also really seen the coverage increase over the last hour. Let me kind of take this radar loop back, and you can see just how quickly these showers and storms have popped up, especially across portions of Fayette County, stretching down towards far northern Buchanan. Delaware County currently has a cell that's moving north into Clayton County, so quite a bit of activity popping up as that primary line of storms that has the biggest warning on it and that tornado warning continues to press off towards the east. You can see south of Highway 20, not as much activity going on, but we are still expecting more development as we go through the rest of this afternoon into this evening, and that is expected to spread south. So if you are north of Interstate 80, you're going to want to stay weather aware, because you are going to see the potential for strong to severe storms at some point as we go through this afternoon. Right now, again, Highway 20 and areas north are getting the brunt of the action, but we're expecting that to spread south as we go through the next several hours and through the afternoon and evening.
That is for sure. Another threat that we're facing with some of these storms today and as we head into the evening is the potential for very heavy rainfall. Flood watch, a flash flood watch is a better way to phrase it, is in effect until Friday morning. Isolated flash flooding could develop as storms move over the same areas repeatedly. The potential for multiple inches of rainfall is there, and it's all going to depend on where the storms track. So it really does favor the areas along and north of Highway 20 at this point. In terms of that heavy rainfall, we've just barely missed some pretty extreme rainfall in southern Minnesota last night. They still have some flash flood warnings from those storms that were there into the morning hours too. So we're thankful for that we were outside of that area. But the pressing concern at the hour is the tornado warning that's in effect for portions of now very far eastern Howard County and just into western Winneshiek County. In fact, they trimmed Howard County out of that. So it's just the Winneshiek County portion, still radar indicated here on the radar. And you can see it's this area that's approaching Ridgeway right now. Still not seeing a really well-defined, definitive area of rotation that would suggest some very imminent tornadic activity. We'll put our velocity view on again. You can see there is some area, perhaps it's now maybe a bit refocused northwest of Ridgeway. Again, it's there, enough to justify the tornado warning. It's embedded within this line. Probably going to see some pretty strong wind gusts in Ridgeway as well as this storm tracks off to the east. So that is something to watch out for. In terms of its latest motion, the National Weather Service says that it is still tracking at about 45 miles per hour. So that has not changed in the last little while. And so we'll go ahead and put a storm track here of the area that is potentially producing the rotation. Carlson Stadium again on the Luther campus, that would get you toward 155. Decorah at about 157. These areas are not within the warning. So this is if the storm maintains its strength and moves out of this warning box. It would arrive there a little bit before we get out of this tornado warning. So it is moving through pretty quickly and progressively. That area of rotation still present, and within that we could still see some gusty winds too. So we really do encourage folks within the tornado warning to still seek shelter as these storms move to the east, as they still pose that threat. If you are in that warning box, the best thing you can do is get underground. if you can't get underground, get to the lowest floor on your home and put as many walls between you and the outside as you can as these storms are tracking to the east. That will help to keep you safe. The environment today is not particularly favorable for extremely strong tornadoes across northeastern Iowa, but it does have enough of those ingredients that there could be some tornadic activity, and that's why this warning is in place. Grab something to protect your head and neck in particular. Bike helmet sounds kind of silly, but it is a really good object to use. Otherwise, avoid windows, doors, outside walls. That's the case in any severe thunderstorm warning too, because those could become dangerous in a pretty big hurry.
Absolutely. And I'll even, when we're at Weather Academy visits talking with kids, we'll even tell them if you don't have access to a bike helmet, even a pot or a pan or a pillow, just something to cover up your head and neck. That is a great way to keep yourself safe when those storms are moving through. Again, keeping in mind that statistically speaking, the chances of your house getting, hit, worst case scenario, damaged and ripped apart are typically very low, but it's always better to take that precaution and play it safe. But I do want to take a second to look at this larger severe thunderstorm warning. We'll switch back to our traditional radar view here. So we've got this larger line of storms that is pressing off to the east and moving that way at about 35 miles an hour. As it moves that direction, it's going to bring with it the potential for some hail, gusty winds as well, and certainly going to be a storm you want to take seriously. The hazards with it, 70-mile-an-hour winds, quarter-sized hail, so we'll put a storm track along this line, again, moving off towards the east at around 35 miles an hour. So we'll start all the way up in far northern Winneshiek County and just kind of run right down along the front edge of this line as it continues to track off to the east. And even though it's not in the warning, we'll take the section of line that's back towards Waverly. And as this whole section along and north of Highway 20 moves off to the east over the next 90 minutes, this line of storms will be moving towards Waverly by around 1:49, so that is just here in about another 4 minutes. Decorah, they'll be arriving at your doorstep at 1:57. Denver at 2:06. West Union by 2:13. Waukon by 2:24. Postville as we get to 2:30. Oelwein by 2:44. Harpers Ferry as we get to 3:01. So Harpers Ferry still a little ways out for you, but you've also got showers and storms that are developing off to your south and to your west. Those are tracking to the northeast, so those might reach you before that main line does. But it's all part of this kind of cluster of showers and storms that really has picked up and developed in a hurry here over the last hour and a half to hour and 45 minutes, and has really made for an active weather day across the northern half of our viewing area.
Yep, we're seeing those storms down to the south. Latest update from the National Weather Service on this Bremer County storm. They've taken most of Black Hawk County out of it, a very small sliver of far northeastern Black Hawk County still included. Still indicated for quarter-sized hail as well as 60-mile-per-hour winds. These storms are tracking off to the northeast, and they're individual. There are a couple of storms out on a little boundary that has been left behind from these storms that we saw overnight. It sagged to the south, and you can kind of see it here. The couple of storms from just east of Waverly affecting Oelwein right now, as well as northeast of Manchester, just a little boundary that's set up here, and that could provide a little more focus for storm development, as well as the potential for storms to rotate a little bit more, especially since they're on their own and not part of that larger line like the storm that's heading into Winneshiek County. At this time, there are no tornado warnings in those areas, but the National Weather Service did include that tornado possible tag on the Bremer County warning, and it does include in their latest update that storm spotters have reported a wall cloud with it, but that does also bear good news. That means that the storm spotters have their eyes on it and are likely going to be able to keep eyes on it as they look ahead. Now, it's that storm potentially near Oelwein that would be one of particular concern at this moment. It is looking pretty strong and could produce a little bit of hail. I wouldn't be surprised if they went ahead with a warning on that one shortly, but at this point it is not warned. Fayette County certainly about to see some stormy weather, and other parts of northeast Iowa too. But the reason why we are on the air is this tornado warning that's in effect for portions of Winneshiek County. Latest look from the National Weather Service does perhaps show a little bit of increased rotation across parts of this warning. It's maybe shifted a little bit to the north. Ridgeway, you're experiencing the heavy rain and probably some gusty winds too, but the other area that we're watching is just north of Ridgeway that would be moving to the east. Again, just perhaps to move north of Decorah as it does. But a new tornado warning has been issued for Fayette County. We were just discussing that potential for that storm to significantly strengthen potentially, and according to the National Weather Service, it has. This warning goes until 2:30 this afternoon. It's for radar indicated rotation as the storm moves slowly to the northeast. So unlike the other ones off to the south, this one's speed is going to be a little bit lower, and we're talking about 25 miles per hour. So we'll go ahead and put a storm track on it here and give you an indication on what's to come for the areas where this rotation is taking place. It's this area moving to the northeast generally, and we'll just kind of give it a general look here. That's the track that it's taking and is moving that direction. It may move a little bit farther anywhere within this warning box, but this is the particular path as we see it right now. Olwine, it's right around you, as we've been discussing. The rotation may be just south of town, but it's very, very close, so get into a shelter immediately. Roberts Woods Athletic Fields, we're talking about that area at about 221, which is right near Fayette at 222, and then moving to the northeast from there. So some rural areas involved, but plenty of other populated areas too. If you live in Arlington, Maynard, other areas near Fayette, anywhere near Highway 3 or Highway 187, those are areas that are included in this warning as this storm tracks off to the northeast. Bear with me as I attempt to pinpoint a bit more. You can see that area is the area to watch. So anywhere near Olwine and points to the northeast. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick look at the velocity view here. It's going to be a little tough to discern potentially. I'm going to click a couple things to try to track it. Yeah, it's this area here that's down near Olwine again. So it's that section that we're watching for any sort of tornadic development at this point. Again, it's currently radar indicated, but we await more information. Spotters are likely on it as it's in an area there where we could see that tornadic development. It's north of Hazleton, between Hazleton and Olwine, as you go north on Highway 150 in that area is really the main concern there as the storm stays off on its own. So a couple of threats to track, AJ, as we go through the rest of this afternoon. One thing I do want to show you as well is our Decorah City Cam as the storms come in. This is the view from Decorah. Obviously, this storm has had its warning that includes Decorah for gusty winds, and you can easily tell that that's going to be a factor there based on the pretty well-defined shelf cloud that's moving in. We're also trying to keep an eye on, see if we see anything suspicious here in terms of something that could develop into rotation. And likely what we're watching for, based on the way it looks on the radar, is going to be this section of the storm sort of in this area. Again, the area that's rotating based on our radar data is going to be near or just north of Decorah as it moves out of this warning box in Winneshiek County. That goes until 2 o'clock, so we're expecting the National Weather Service to make a decision on that warning pretty soon. But that rotation has perhaps shown a little bit more health in that storm after looking like it was weakening. But still, the strong indication is, even outside of any tornadic possibility here in Winneshiek County approaching Decorah soon, is going to be some pretty gusty winds, potentially 60, 70 miles per hour, not off the table here.
Yep, and that's a storm, again, been watching it as it's moved into our area from the west. And as we have gone through the really last hour or so, we've been tracking these storms as they've continued to roll that way.
If you want, real quick, AJ, before you do some analysis, Dave, if you could put up the big box, little box combo, put max 2 in the little box, and keep the main focus in the big box, AJ or I, because we've got the Decorah City Cam available on max 2, so we can kind of keep an eye on that together as it really begins to affect that portion of Winneshiek County. Flip other direction, possibly. Sounds good.
There.
All right, go ahead, AJ.
So yeah, here we go. We've got a really fascinating view of it from a storm structure standpoint. So let me kind of pause the radar where we're at right now, and it's pretty easy to see exactly where on radar you can kind of see the in Max 2 the image of the city cam there, where the clouds kind of curl back into each other. That's now on the right side of your screen, just under the Decorah banner. That would coincide pretty closely, if I am not mistaken, with this segment of the line here that's kind of hooking back into itself. If you look on the bottom right corner of your screen where my arrow is, kind of right in there. So that would be your cause for concern, your area of rotation. So at this point, appears that we have very good eyes on it and should have a really good view of the storm here for the next couple of minutes. So should be able to get a good gauge on how things are looking from a ground level and also be able to look at it from a radar level as well. So super helpful, always great to have the city cams for that use. But as the storm approaches Decorah, again, tornado warning for a radar indicated. We are keeping an eye out for a storm that's got radar indicated rotation. Let's take a look at the velocity. So looks like that area of rotation just due west of Decorah. Let's switch to a different velocity view and see if that gives us, looks like kind of a, again, just kind of to the due west of Decorah, kind of a broad area of rotation within that warning box, which again, broad is always good news, but kind of in this area here is where I'm keeping an eye on things, where you just kind of have that wider, broader rotation, why that radar indicated warning is there. Not seeing anything definitive in our city cam that would indicate any kind of funnel reaching down to the ground, and that also tracks with no evidence of any debris getting picked up by this storm. So at this point, all signs point to a storm that does not have a tornado on the ground, however, does have that tornado warning. So something to take seriously, and we're going to stay here and continue to track it. Before too much longer, it'll be getting out towards the edge of its warning. So then the National Weather Service will make that decision on whether or not they continue the warning.
And I think the storm that potentially looks perhaps just as ominous, if not a bit more on radar at least, is the one moving into southern Fayette County. This warning goes until 2:30. Oelwein area is very much under the gun right now. So if you're hearing us in Oelwein, seek shelter. This storm is moving to the northeast. It looks like it may split between Maynard and Arlington, but it's going to be a close call no matter what. And so we strongly encourage you, if you live in those areas, to also be seeking shelter, especially the way that this storm is moving, that northeasterly motion. It's going to obscure what is likely an area of rotation near the Oelwein area before it gets to you. So you're going to move through some very heavy rain, potentially some pretty large hail. The warning goes for quarter-sized hail, but there is the potential there that it could be a little bit larger. Seeing some very strong rotation on radar here in the Oelwein area. And Winnesheek County said that they had seen some rotation in the clouds near Kalmar. So that is what's moving through Fayette County. Again, if you are within this red box anywhere near Fayette and points to the south, you'll really want to seek shelter now as things look pretty intense there. Again, it's right on that boundary that could enhance the potential for some rotation. And you can kind of pick up on it here near the Oelwein area. Pretty clear that that's moving through. No report of a tornado at this point, but it is pretty ominous as that occurs. It looks like perhaps did La Crosse go ahead and let the tornado warning go in Winnesheek County? Yes. The rotation has continued to weaken, so that is good news there. That one will expire at 2 o'clock, and I kind of agree with them. For a split second, it looks like it was picking up again, but the tornadic threat has diminished again with that storm. Again, it's more of a line, so it's not shocking there that that's occurring, but our Fayette County storm continues. They've now changed that to potentially producing golf ball-sized hail as well. So even outside of any sort of tornadic threat, we're talking about a very intense storm as it tracks off to the northeast. So you'll really want to seek shelter, and it's moving slowly. 20 miles per hour. You've got time if you live in these communities, but we certainly suggest that you don't delay. You'll have to bear with me here as we get the new sweep there. Same sort of rotation, still pretty strong here. And we'll take it off to the northeast very slowly. So Maynard, it's going to take some time, another 8 to 10 minutes up toward Fayette at about 2:13. Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to correct this. That was the speed for the Decorah storm. So we're going to go ahead and put it for the speed for this storm, which, as we noted just now, is a lot slower. So Maynard, it's going to approach your area at 2:15, as well as portions of Fayette at 2:32 and Clacks Island Park at about 2:32 as well. New tornado warning for portions of Bremer County. Radar indicated rotation seen there. This storm, similar to the other storm that is in Fayette County in terms of having the ability to produce some very intense weather. And so that is why the National Weather Service has gone ahead and issued that update in portions of Bremer County. Again, it's mostly over rural areas near and north of Highway 3. If you live in those areas, near Yukon Avenue, Viking Avenue, Y Avenue, you're not only under the threat for quarter-sized hail, but a possible developing tornado as this storm moves northeastward. It is also moving at that slower speed as it tracks that way, and it would bring in that potential at about 20 miles per hour. Let's take a look at our velocity view here as well as it moves northeastward. You can see it's perhaps a little bit displaced to the southeast of the heaviest rain, and maybe just west of Orrin as it moves off to the northeast. So we'll go ahead and put a storm track there. Again, this is pretty rural parts of the county, and so no cities show up, but plenty of folks live out there and farms and other areas. So we certainly encourage you in Bremer County to be seeking shelter as well. The rotation, though, very strong in the Oline area and tracking to the northeast.
Absolutely, and taking a quick look at the storm to see if there's any kind of debris signature that I'm picking up on, and I'm not seeing anything. Of course, that is always a good sign. But the thing about it with this storm is that it's far away from any of our radar sites. So as we kind of zoom out here, we've got 3 radar sites that are looking at these storms. One of them is located over in Des Moines. The other one is located over in the Quad Cities. Our third radar site is up in La Crosse, and both of these storms are kind of out there in no man's land. They're a little closer to La Crosse, and as they continue to track off to the northeast, they will continue to get closer to La Crosse. But with them being so far away from the radar, that makes it a little tricky to see the lower levels of the storm, but we certainly can get enough of a view based on what we do have a look at to tell that both of these storms do have pretty clear rotation signatures with them. They have been sustaining them for a while now, especially this eastern storm that is near Oline. So as they continue to track off to the northeast, we're going to continue to stay on the air with you until the threat is passed and until these tornado warnings are no longer active. But the other thing with these storms, you can see it right now in the bottom right corner of your screen. Our Decorah City Cam was right there on the leading edge of that line of storms that was rolling through. It has they've now become engulfed in rainfall. We do now have a new tornado warning. We'll take a look at that one. That is going to be an extension of the warning that now goes into Fayette County on this other supercell that is just to the north of Oran. So we'll put a storm track on this, and as I believe the storm is still moving at a pretty slow clip. Yeah, right around 25 miles an hour off to the northeast. So as you can also kind of see if you look at it closely, over near Orrin, that storm kind of has that little notch that you look for, that little hook echo right in there. So that would be the area of the storm where you'd be concerned about rotation. So let's go ahead and put a storm track on it. The storm is moving off to the northeast at around 25 miles an hour. And as it continues to track off in that direction, that's going to take it over the next 45 to 50 minutes just to the edge of the warning. Westgate by 2:14, Maynard by 2:28, Randalia by 2:34, Robertson's Woods Athletic Fields by the time we get to 2:40. By 2:41, that storm will be rolling into Fayette. So still about 40 minutes away from Fayette, but Downing County Park, that'll be on your doorstep here in about another 6 minutes, and that is the rotating part of the storm. So that's what we are most concerned with, but it'll also be producing some heavy rainfall, some hail embedded within that warning as well, quarter-sized hail. But again, the primary threat and the reason that we are here with you is because of that tornado threat, as both of these tornado-warned storms now continue to track off towards the northeast.
Keeping an eye on things in Decorah as well. Outside of those tornado warnings, you can see in your lower right corner of your screen some pretty strong winds moving through the Decorah area. So outside of tornadic threats, these storms probably will produce a decent amount of wind as well as the potential for hail. That chance has been increasing a bit here across the area. Looks like the tornado warning for Fayette County The other tornado warning for Fayette County has been updated from the National Weather Service. Continues until 2:30. Golf ball sized hail also possible with this storm, and radar indicated rotation. Still not very far from the Olwine area. And so we'll go ahead and put our velocity view again on. And you can see it's tracked just perhaps east of the Olwine area, very, very close. And it's going to be moving very slowly off to the northeast as it does, 20 miles per hour once again. And so those storms on this southern boundary area are definitely crawling. Now, if it keeps its current path, you can see it's going to take you off to the northeast and likely miss some of our bigger populated areas. It's a close call, though, for Maynard as well as Arlington, and so we suggest that if you live in those communities, you still heed this warning. Maynard, you've been cut out of this warning but placed in the other warning for the second storm. Westgate, of course, is in that one too, but Arlington, it's going to be a pretty close call there, so I would say don't consider yourself out of this danger. Instead, you're very much in line for the storm as it tracks to the northeast. Now, the last couple of updates on radar perhaps indicate a little hint of some reduction in the rotation. You saw it there, but this storm maintains its shape and its structure, that we could see it develop very quickly again. So we certainly encourage you to take it seriously and treat it as if a tornado is occurring. And as such, if you were just recently joining us and find yourself within one of these tornado warning boxes, it's a good reminder that you should take action now. And that includes getting to the lowest level of your home. An interior room is your best bet as we look through that. Windows and doors, stay away from them. Get as many walls, though, between you and the storm as you can, as these will be producing, at the very least, some potentially damaging winds and the potential for a tornado. Grab a bike helmet, blankets, pillows, or towels to help keep yourself safe. And if you don't have a basement, of course, lowest floor is best. And if you are in a mobile home, always a reminder that you need to get to more substantial shelter. Mobile homes offer little protection from tornadoes, and in fact don't offer a ton of protection from the strongest damaging winds that we see in thunderstorms. So it is not a spot to be when the weather gets nasty. Justin Roberts joins us as well. Justin, one thing that I've noticed, and perhaps you have too, is that so far a lot of warnings. Fortunately, so far, not a ton of reports. So we are looking at that. Justin's here, but he is keeping an eye on things for us and will be providing updates to us here in the background as we have them.
Absolutely, and always a good thing to, at least for the sake of safety aspect, to not necessarily have those reports to back up the warnings. That's a sign that, of course, there's not damage, not injury. So it's always something that you look for as those storms are rolling through. Something that I'm noticing, kind of looking at radar and just how these two different sections of storms are tracking. You've got your two tornado warned cells, and I'll just kind of leave the radar loop here so you can just kind of watch it on loop a few times. But you've got your tornado warned storms that kind of have a more northeasterly jog, and you've got your line of storms that has more of just a due easterly track to it. So it looks like they're on a little bit of a collision course. As that storm near Olwine is out by itself right now, it's able to kind of enjoy and utilize that warm, moist environment. It has it all to itself. But sometimes what can happen is that sustained rotation within that storm can get a little bit disrupted as it gets interfered with by that incoming line from the east. So that could potentially lend to a sign of either some kind of a change in the rotation. Sometimes it can disrupt it and lead to a weakening trend. So that's something we'll be watching here over the next several minutes as these individual cells start to get closer to that line and become a little more entangled with it, and those storms start to interfere with each other.
It'll be a process that's inevitable here, but it's going to take a little time. So that's why that threat continues for these warnings. There is a storm. You can see that one northeast of Manchester. It's pretty small, but it's shown a little bit of strengthening here over the last little while. It is at least showing some very minor signs of rotation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that tornado threats are going to develop there. But it does mean that that storm could be strengthening and could be our next candidate for potentially producing some gusty wind and some large hail. But it's two storms that are really moving into Fayette County that both have an area of rotation with them. And that is the tornado warning that goes into effect 1/2/45, the other until 2:30. So 2 to watch. And we've got those areas, again, really 2 spots that we're watching. One down here and one down here, vaguely. And they're moving off to the northeast generally over the at about 20 miles per hour. So very, very slowly, but posing that threat. Still no reports, still no indication of any real change in the state of these storms, which is discouraging. You want to see some weakening or some disruption that AJ was talking about, that interaction that can sometimes be a good thing in terms of weakening these storms. But for now, they are holding their own and continuing slowly moving to the northeast. Outside of these storms, we do have plenty of other storm activity, some stronger storms here moving through our western counties from Marshall County up through Grundy into portions of Butler County. Those storms are continuing off to the east at about probably 30 to 40 miles per hour in those cases. At this point, no warnings for those. The strongest storm would be near the Conrad area, which is just between Marshall and Grundy County. And then another little line of storms back toward Mason City. And we could see additional development as we go into the afternoon, about as far south as Highway 30. So if you live in any of those areas, you'll want to keep your eyes open and yourself weather aware as we look ahead. Justin Roberts now joins us. We had a cat got his tongue for a second. And Justin, you have been keeping an eye on, we've got communication lines with the National Weather Service, kind of keeping an eye on some of our city cams. What do you see?
Yeah, right now, as you look at the bottom right side of your screen there, you've got just torrential rains rolling through Decorah. One of the byproducts of just this massive amount of humidity we had. And one of the biggest threats is any of these that roll through, they're going to be accompanied by some very heavy rain, so the visibility is going to be very low. Hearing from emergency management in Winnebago County, they've got spotters out. Alameda County as well. You'll remember Alameda County and Howard County, that kind of northern area yesterday, certainly under the gun a couple times for storms there. But all this activity just running into this muggy air. And if we can switch to the Independence City cam, I don't know, we've kind of looked from Independence downtown looking north. You can certainly see the darkening of the skies, but around Independence, around Waterloo, even towards Manchester, things are just hot and steamy, but all the activity to the north of there. And one of the good news pieces here, guys, is that yes, we've gotten these tornado warnings, but we aren't hearing much in the way of reports at all, which is a good product to have, a good problem to have. Granted, some of this has gone through a lot of rural areas of Fayette County, around Buchanan and Bremer County, but no news up to this point is good news.
Yeah, if you've got sharp eyes, you can see what Justin was talking about. 90 degrees with a 77-degree dew point in Independence. That is steamy. That provides plenty of energy for storms to use, and that's why we're seeing this rash of storms that have developed in northeast Iowa, providing a variety of severe weather outcomes. AJ, I mean, there's no shortage of moisture just about anywhere.
There isn't. One thing that did catch my attention was as we kind of switch back over to looking at the radar. It'll load here in just a second. But those, Mason City, they got hit by this initial line of storms, so that air mass had already been worked over, that those storms had gone through, utilized some of that, warm, muggy air, and they've already got more storms moving through. So, again, like Justin alluded to, plenty of warm, moist, unstable air for these storms to use as they're moving through. But I would like to point out, I noticed Charles City, as we kind of, we have these storms moving through the northern half of our viewing area, and as they move through, they do use up some of that warmth, some of that moisture. They pull down some rain-cooled air from the upper levels of the atmosphere. Charles City, I'm jealous of you guys right now. 66 degrees is your temperature. Your dew point also at 66 with that rain-cooled air. That's probably the the coolest anyone in eastern Iowa has felt in the last at least 5 or 6 days. But you can see the rest of the area. 77 in Fayette currently for your air temperature, 77 in Decorah, and then again, 90 down near Independence with that 77-degree dew point. Very warm, very steamy conditions, and that's why these storms are flourishing, maintaining their strength, and doing what they are doing, leading to that strong to severe threat. In fact, we'll take one brief look at some of your dew points across the area. Again, south of Interstate 80, especially hot and steamy down there, but up where those storms are too, like we talked about, plenty of warmth, plenty of instability, plenty of moisture in the air, and there is your end product as those showers and storms move through, and some of them are able to utilize that environment and turn strong to severe.
And one thing to note is that the severe thunderstorm warning that was in effect for portions of Chickasaw, Fayette, and Winneshiek counties, that's been allowed to expire. Some signs that these storms have lost a little bit of their punch, but they will still likely produce heavy rain, lots of lightning, maybe a little bit of small hail, and some gusty winds, but just not quite to that severe level as they continue tracking eastward. Alameda County, you will be getting involved in these storms very soon, and the National Weather Service, of course, says that they are continuing to monitor in case anything changes in terms of the strength of those storms. So at this time, the warnings that we have in effect are these tornado warnings. There's a severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Bremer County eastern side, tornado warning for portions of Bremer County eastern side too, but the threat with those storms have moved into Fayette County, and that's these two little supercell thunderstorms that exist just right north of Highway 3. That's been the area where this little boundary exists. There's another storm in northern Delaware County about to cross into Clayton County that is not currently warned, but is worth watching as well. If we put on our velocity view, you can see the areas that we're speaking about. Two areas of rotation, maybe a bit of a third one west of West Union. We'll have to keep an eye on that, but it's not currently in a warning. It's these two areas, northeast of Olwine and south of Westgate. Those are the areas moving to the northeast at about 20 miles per hour. So we'll go ahead and put a fresh storm track on here, see what we can see as things continue tracking that way. So Westgate, it's just a couple minutes away. Randalia at about 2:44 as these storms move northeastward. That's the warning that goes in effect until 2:45. Now, Maynard, you are in this warning. Again, it's going to be such a close shave that we really suggest that you also seek shelter as these storms move through. And so you are in that warning. Don't necessarily discount it, even though that storm track did not identify you. New update to the radar. We'll update our little rotation indicators. Again, this storm at this point has the slightly stronger rotation, but still plenty in the storm in Fayette County as well. And so that is tracking to the northeast. New tornado warning for portions of what I'm going to believe is Delaware County. This goes until 2:45 this afternoon. That was that third storm that is along that isolated boundary that is providing some potentially strong to severe outcomes. If we can go ahead and switch to Max 3, I'm going to let AJ take a look.
Yeah, so here's a look at that storm that is currently tracking through northern Delaware County, and that is kind of like Corey had mentioned. There's this outflow boundary that's left over from showers and storms that moved across northern portions of the state earlier today. So again, showers and storms went through. Rain, cool air rushed out of there and worked its way south, and well, showers and storms developed along it later this afternoon, and they're able to kind of utilize the little bit of spin in the air that you get along that boundary to start to rotate. So currently this storm is sitting just to the north of Greeley, the area of rotation sitting just to the north of Greeley as well. So Greeley, you are in the warning, but you are at this point not in the direct path of this storm, but it has a very slow motion, moving off to the northeast at around 15 miles an hour. That's the other thing, these storms, they'll kind of follow along with and hug that boundary, and that leads to a very slow storm motion. So we'll get a storm track put on this. The good news with the slow motion is that you've got time to react if this storm is moving your way, but it also means if you're getting the wind, the rain, any of the hail, or if you're under the rotation, it's going to be sitting over you for a longer period of time than if it was moving faster. So 15 miles an hour means that it, over the next 45 minutes, well, isn't going to move all that fast, but we'll see where it takes us. The area of rotation within this storm will be moving towards Wood by 2:24. That's in about another 8 minutes, and then Elkport by the time we get to 2:49. So it's slow moving. As we have seen with all of these storms so far, it is radar indicated. Have not seen any reports on my end of any confirmed tornado on the ground. Justin, I know you've been keeping an eye on the National Weather Service chat. Are you seeing any messages
No
from
word
them?
as of yet, which again is good news. But if we want to switch to our Manchester City cam, we're kind of looking from the south part to the north. From Manchester downtown, look north, you can certainly see that line of clouds and just kind of that darkening of the sky. This is about 10 miles north of Manchester, so Edgewood, if we're talking about the Delaware and Fayette County area as it continues. And to your point, moving slowly, one of the big concerns will be some heavy rains that come along with this as well. That will not only cause possibilities of some flash flooding, but certainly reduce visibilities as spotters go out and try to identify what they're seeing and relay it back to the National Weather Service and to us as well.
Absolutely, and we do have an extension of that tornado warning now that goes into Clayton County, and that is, again, just an extension of that storm. That was the National Weather Service in La Crosse adding on to that warning that was initially issued by the National Weather Service in the Quad Cities. But the messaging remains the same with the new warning. That is for a storm that has radar indicated rotation. And again, we'll go ahead and put a storm track on it. Like we've talked about with this storm, very slow motion with it. Again, 15 to 20 miles an hour. So we'll throw another storm track on it. And again, just kind of show you, we'll go out a little further this time, the next hour and a half, which takes it towards Guttenberg by the time we get to 322. So you guys still have a while before this storm will be making it your way. But before then, Garber by 251, Wood again by about 223. And this is one of several storms that are now tornado warned. We're up to 3 now that are all sitting right along a very subtle boundary that's sitting north of Highway 20. And all 3 of these storms are using the little bit of spin that you get close to the surface to kind of utilize that to help them rotate. And that is why we have these tornado warned rotating storms.
That is for sure. It is that boundary that is the focus at this point, and it will continue to be a problem until, as you were describing earlier, AJ, storms, if they are able to sort of collide and interact, that could bring the tornado threat a little bit lower. But at this point, those storms are individual enough that it's remaining a problem. Now, there still is some other storm development moving through Bremer County. You're seeing more heavy rain. One of the threats that we're tracking today is the potential for flash flooding to develop, and Fayette County may be a candidate as well, as once these 2 storms with very hefty rainfall move through. The storms right behind them will continue to offer even more heavy rain, and so we could end up with some pretty high totals in Bremer and Fayette County. That same storm moving through Clayton County could also provide a little bit of potentially very heavy rainfall as they track very slowly. Watching a couple of storms down toward the Marshalltown area, north of there, Conrad and portions of Grundy County. Those at this point have not had severe thunderstorm warnings or otherwise, but development continues down the line there at least a little bit. So that is something that we do have our eyes on for sure, as that is a potential there. Now, it does look like the National Weather Service updated the tornado warning in western Fayette County. Still radar indicated, still near Olwine, still moving northeast. So not a lot of change there, but just to reiterate that storm still has the potential to produce any sort of rotation. As it does, it looks like there may also be, that storm that's moving north or west of Arlington, its rotation continues to be pretty distinct. And so we'll go ahead and put our velocity view on again just to show you those 2 areas. One just so close to Maynard, and one very close to Arlington, just about to move northeastward again at a very slow pace. Fayette still in line for this. Maynard, you should still be in your shelter. And this storm appears that it may be producing some pretty significant hail too, the one in the southeast in particular. It takes a second for the data to pop in here, but the warning is for potentially ping pong ball sized hail. Wouldn't be surprised if it was a little bit bigger than that too. You can see here on our indicator right west of Arlington, maybe up to 2-inch sized hail, which is lime sized, roughly a little bit bigger than golf ball sized. And so that will cause a lot of damage as it moves off to the northeast. That's just a sign that these storms are utilizing that energy, that heat and humidity is causing these storms to grow very, very tall and potentially produce hail. In fact, they're about 55,000 feet tall, so about 10 miles up in the air is how high these storms are. And so that just goes to show their strength as they track northeastward. So not just the tornado threat with these, but also the potential for some very big hail.
Well, and the good news about that is that this is such a rural area of the county right now, kind of crossing over 187. However, there are a number of farms, number of crops in the field, and it heads towards Wadena. We know there's some campgrounds out that way. kind of along the Wadena area, heading up towards Clayton County. It's a big weekend for camping as well, so certainly if you've got friends or family up in that area, give them the heads up that this is coming their way, because certainly damaging hail can be just as destructive as some strong winds that we're watching with these too.
For sure, and it's the big holiday weekend. Hopefully this will be the worst of the weather that we see through the weekend, and we can get it out of the way before even more people are out at those campgrounds and just kind of in the potential area where they just may not have as much access to shelter to help keep them safe. So it's a really strong point, Justin, as we're looking this way.
Absolutely. And as we continue to go through the day-to-day, if this isn't reason enough, I don't know what is, to make sure that you have ways to receive warnings, because keep in mind, this is not the only chance we're going to have at severe weather. We're going to watch for more activity overnight tonight that will bring the chance for damaging winds and some hail. And then tomorrow, again, it's going to be warm and muggy, and we'll have that potential as well for seeing some stronger storms on Friday. We'll see some lingering activity in the morning, another chance at it late in the day into Friday night. So plenty of opportunity yet across many portions of eastern Iowa for getting more of these showers and storms. So again, always good to have ways to receive warnings, and this is exactly why, because they can really pop up in a hurry, whether it's a severe thunderstorm or a tornado warning, and making sure that you have ways to get alerted to it, make sure that you are safe, and make sure that you are, most importantly, not caught off guard as these storms approach your area.
And between the two storms, the one that has the strongest rotation on it right now, the one that is looking like it's the most intense, is rather between the three storms even, is this one that's just west of Arlington, and it's going to be slowly heading toward areas up into eastern Fayette County, western Clayton County potentially, and we're seeing that rotation very, very close to Arlington at this point, perhaps just ever so slightly weakening maybe a little bit in that last update, but the storm is still very intense and could produce a tornado at any time. At this point, it does not appear that it has, but it will also be in an area of the storm that will be difficult to see it coming, as we've been emphasizing a few times. So make sure that you are in shelter at this point as that storm continues off to the northeast at about 20 miles per hour. That is the area of concern in particular. I'll highlight it here using this little indicator. Again, it's pretty close to Arlington as it moves off to the northeast. Relatively broad rotation at this point, but don't want to mess with it, that's for sure, as the storm continues its path. Now, luckily, what AJ's looking at on his computer is a little bit of perhaps interference potential with another storm that's approaching from the south. Hopefully, perhaps, we can get that and disrupt this storm before it does anything we don't want it to.
That would certainly be a nice thing to see, and as you kind of see that radar loop there, that storm really, as they tend to do, pops up very suddenly right over Strawberry Point, but it's currently moving north and is on a collision course with that middle tornado warned storm. So we're, again, watching it closely, and we'll hope to maybe, like Corey said, get a little bit of interference to perhaps get some disruption there, but with the middle storm, that's one tornado warning. We've got two other storms that are also tornado warned, and both of them I'm noticing now have a slightly more pronounced hook echo than what I had seen recently. So this storm over on the right side of your screen, just north of Highway 3, right there, a little bit of a notch forming at the bottom of that storm. And then over here, our storm off to the left, again, a little bit of a notch forming there. We know these storms have been rotating. We know that they have both had radar indicated warnings associated with them. So we'll here just really quickly run down the line. We'll take a quick look at how the storm is looking in terms of the intensity of that rotation. So again, Maynard still seeing certainly seeing some rotation there. If you're in downtown Maynard, you're likely getting some pretty gusty winds right now as this storm continues to pass overhead. Again, we've got our middle storm that Corey just pointed out with that rotation sitting right over the top of Arlington. And then farther down the line, our storm that is off by Colesburg, just to the northwest of Colesburg. That one also, again, has a pretty defined area of rotation. So luckily, again, all three of these warnings at this point radar indicated. No reports that we have seen thus far of any of these storms producing a tornado that spotters have seen. Justin, I know you've been keeping an eye on the National Weather Service chat.
And again, a lot of this is falling over rural areas, so any reports we get will most likely be from farms, will be, farm fields, possibility of farm buildings, but even haven't seen any of that and have been in contact with emergency management from Bremer County, Buchanan County, Clayton County, even Delaware County all chiming in. They've got spotters out along the way here, but the good news is no news as of this point, gentlemen.
Yes, but the potential certainly is there, and it's that one warning that, in particular, this area near Arlington that's especially of concern right now in terms of having the strongest indication of rotation as it moves by. What we can hope is that it's still a pretty decent distance away from the radar, so we may be just looking at things that are elevated and not near the ground in reality. As the radar beam shoots away from the radar site, it gets a little bit higher up in the atmosphere the farther away it gets. So that is what we're hoping, but certainly a very strong radar presentation there near Arlington, west of the Taylorsville area. And again, as Justin said, it's going to move into some pretty rural areas up toward eastern Fayette County, but still folks live there. And you can see in the city of Fayette itself, which is kind of right in between these two storms, your lower right screen has got our city cam view where at the very least very heavy rain is occurring. I'm trying to look here, it just may be very giant raindrops, if not a little bit of hail mixed in too. It's a little, I think I'm seeing some things that are on the ground in the grass that look spherical and stay there. So I'm going to guess that there's a little bit of hail going on there too as this storm is moving through. So that's not a surprise based on how the storm has appeared on radar. We'll have to wait and see if we get any official reports. It's possible that we're just seeing things that are laying on the ground too. We'll just have to wait and see at this point.
Indeed we will, but we've talked a little bit about the boundary that these storms are sitting on, these tornado-warned storms, and this is kind of a visual representation of what we are looking at. So this is visible satellite. This is looking at cloud cover across eastern Iowa. As you can see Dubuque kind of there in the center of your screen in the top left there, all those clouds popping up as we have that line of storms that move through Decorah. But then the storms that we're watching that are tornado warned are sitting kind of in this zone right in here. And if you'll notice, there is a stretch where you don't really have any cloud cover in southern Wisconsin, and then suddenly to the south of it, a bunch of little, what look like white speckles. Those are cumulus clouds, and right along there, kind of where those clouds come to an end, that's that boundary that we're talking about. And you can see that those tornado-warned storms that are kind of in the area of Fayette are right there near that boundary. So that's what we're talking about. They develop in that warm, moist air. They have kind of been riding right along that boundary, which is why they're moving so slowly. You can see that boundary is creeping north at a very slow clip. But that's kind of the, like we've talked about, the focal point, and has kind of been part of the reason why we have this tornado threat this afternoon and this evening. And that boundary got there from showers and storms that were ongoing north of us this morning. A lot of rain-cooled air fell, hit the ground, and then it rushed southward, and now it's kind of very slowly working its way back north, bringing those storms along with it.
Interestingly, the National Weather Service in La Crosse has decided to let the warning for eastern Fayette County go. It expired at 2:30 as scheduled. They cited that the warning had weakened below severe limits, although there is still some hint of rotation on that one. And I see that the warning for the storm to the west has also dissipated at this point, or at least that perhaps they have canceled that one early. So that one that was going until 2:45 in Fayette County is now completely canceled. That leaves us with one tornado warning in effect. That includes portions of Clayton County. Technically, Delaware County is still included in this as well. That storm has moved out of Delaware County at this point. That small sliver of a warning between Edgewood and Colesburg, it's pretty much off to your northeast at this point. And it's areas that are in far southern Clayton County instead. You're talking near Elkport and Osterdock and Guttenberg, eventually sort of a factor in Cassville too. But it's still got a little ways to go before we get toward those areas. Quarter-sized hail also possible with this storm as the area of rotation tracks slowly through. So we'll go ahead and put our velocity view on and see what we can see. Make sure that you are in shelter across portions of Clayton County if you are within this red box. You can see that area of rotation still moving at just 20 miles per hour, so we are not talking about things moving at a quick clip at all. And so that puts you into very rural portions of Clayton County in particular. So Osterdock, Elkport, you still want to be in your shelter, even though at this point the indication is that the rotation will perhaps move just between Osterdock in particular. Elkport, again, you're not out of the danger here, so we really do want you to stay with us and stay in shelter. This warning goes until 3 o'clock this afternoon, so we've got a little ways to go before it does. And at this point, that is the storm that has the most significant rotation with it. I think the good news with the storms to the west is that we have seen some indication that those storms that were kind of interacting did disrupt some of that. So that is part of the reason why we've seen that. New update from the National Weather Service keeps the same area, basically including that tornado warning in Clayton County, but does increase the potential hail size to ping pong ball sized. So some strength there, potentially some hail falling in parts of that storm. So watch out for that as well. That has been a threat with these storms just due to all the energy we have in the atmosphere and storms being able to utilize them. Of course, it's also fighting against some of the warmer parts of the atmosphere too, but it's not enough that it would completely discount that. So that is this point.
Only report right now from, there's a public report into the National Weather Service, just north of Olwine, report of tree branches down in Olwine.
Okay.
We don't know the size, we don't know the scope, but they're estimating it as that storm went through about, half hour or so ago. So might be a case of some delayed reports that'll be coming out now, but certainly not the not a ton of news coming out at this point, at least from the cells that moved through. Now just kind of all eyes on that Clayton County cells. It continues to move north. We'll switch to our, see if I can steer the Guttenberg camera around a little bit, see maybe we can get a look at it from the north looking down to the south.
Oh yeah, that's a good call. Take a look and see what we can see out in that portion of Clayton County. Otherwise, the Delaware County warning, as we were just discussing, it's moved out and they have canceled it at this point. So if you're a Delaware County, all clear for the time being, as you're pretty much out of the woods for storm development for the time being. Now you're still in that severe thunderstorm watch until 7 o'clock tonight. And as we've been pointing out, there's more storms off to the west, but the tornadic threat and imminent storm threat has reduced as that boundary that AJ was just locating and showing you about continues drifting northward. We've got those pretty decent southerly winds, not quite as strong as the last couple of days, but still strong enough, providing the movement on that boundary. And we're continuing to see those shift farther to the north and put the Highway 20 corridor perhaps a little bit more out of the area, which is good news. AJ, you're doing some analysis again of the storm in Clayton County. What are you catching?
Looking like we've got some pretty decent rotation. I know, Justin, you mentioned possibly getting a look down south from the Guttenberg City Cam. If that doesn't pan out, we could probably try Cassville as well. If we can get a due westerly shot there, that could give us something. But yeah, at this point, looking at a storm that's continuing to maintain its rotation. At this point, it does look somewhat broad. I'm checking some data off screen to just see if there's any kind of indicator of debris being picked up or any a tightening up of the rotation, and I'm not seeing anything. Of course, that's a great sign that it's not producing a tornado, but we'll take a quick look and see what the rotation is, and well, it's quite easy to find. You've got your winds that are blowing towards your radar. You've got your winds that are blowing away from your radar. And right in there, that's going to be where your rotation is, just to the north, or excuse me, southwest of Osterdock. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But that is going to be, you guys are in the path of it, so it is going to be moving your way. And in fact, we'll throw a storm track on that really quick, and we'll get an idea on when it will be arriving in your area. This storm moving off to the northeast at around 20 miles an hour. So as that rotation continues to track off to the north, let me adjust my speed here and just make sure we're giving you all of the correct data and information. It's going to be a really close call. If you are in Osterdock, you should be in your safe place right now. If you are in Guttenberg, technically you were not in the warning, but if this storm maintains its strength, you will be in the warning before long. We'll see it approaching Osterdock here at around 2:44. Guttenberg City Park by 2:56, Guttenberg by 2:58. So those are all places. Osterdock, you are currently in that warning, so make sure that you are in your safe place now and staying there. Guttenberg City Park and anyone in Guttenberg, you are just outside the warning, but never too early to go into your safe place, whether it's your basement, lowest level of your home, bathroom, or closet. You know, the nice thing about these storms with their slow motion is you do have more time than you ordinarily would to react before they arrive your way.
That's a very good point as well, AJ. So let's take a 1,000-mile view here and see where we stand across the state. Pinpoint Doppler radar shows the activity mainly confined to the northeastern quadrant of the state. We're talking east of Interstate 35, north of Highway 30, as storms have been developing. One lone warning of any import here in the TV9 viewing area. That is a tornado warning, as AJ just showed you, near the Osterdock area. Otherwise, no warnings in effect. Now, there are plenty of strong storms in many places, and they will likely produce heavy rain, perhaps some small hail, and some gustier winds. So even if you are not included in a warning, the potential for some pretty intense thunderstorms that are producing a lot of lightning as well. We'll put lightning tracker on there, and you can see just how much lightning is taking place. In fact, we're going to go ahead and add our strike counter to it as well, and you can see, well, at this hour, within the view of our radar right now, 641 lightning strikes in the last 15 minutes. So that is a ton of lightning and is very dangerous too. The storms that are not included in warnings can still pose quite a threat. And so that's why anytime any storm moves through your area, you should be seeking shelter until it passes. A couple of storms that have at least caught my attention of being on the stronger side are down here still toward Marshall, Grundy, Tama, and eventually moving into Black Hawk County. No warnings for these storms, but some heavy rain and maybe a little bit of gusty wind is not out of the question. They're just a little bit farther away from that boundary that we've been highlighting up to the north, and so they are really living on the intense heat and humidity for their intensity, but just don't have the same other ingredients to organize into something perhaps more threatening. But we're watching it, and that's because the entire area along and north of Highway 30 is included in this severe thunderstorm watch that goes until 7 o'clock. Does still carry the potential for additional severe weather through then, and we still have that area of a slight risk for severe storms across most of the TV9 viewing area today. Put this on here, you can see that carries for even as far south as about Interstate 80. This goes through tonight. So once this round of storms continues through the next few hours here in the afternoon and evening, there could be more that develop and move into the area from the west, and it really is coming in from the west later tonight. You can see as we pull back, there's an enhanced risk in South Dakota and northwest Iowa. That could be storms that develop and then eventually move in a weaker phase later overnight. But that is sort of the picture of the next several hours and sort of what we've got going at the moment. But we still have that tornado warning that is a pretty critical element of our day for the next 20 minutes or so for portions of Clayton County. And AJ, you're looking again, trying to see what you can see using a radar picture and whether any tornadic development's taking place.
I am, and currently what I'm looking at is the rotation within the storm, very clearly well defined. If you are along Osterdock Road, you need to be in your safe place. If you are along Marengo Road, you need to be in your safe place. Same with Mesquite Road. If you live anywhere in the town of Osterdock, you should be in your safe place right now. Jolly Ridge Road, you are just on the outside of this warning, but not a bad idea to go ahead and hop into your safe place. Millville, it's going to be a really close call. It looks like it is projected to pass just to the north of you. I would play it safe, though, and go ahead and just stay out of the way of this storm as it is moving by. Been looking at also any sign of if it is picking up debris and if there would be any kind of a definitive indicator of debris. A little tough to tell. I'm not seeing anything super definitive, but that rotation is certainly very well defined. So you're again going to want to just play it safe, and if you are in the path of this storm and if you are in this warning, go ahead and duck down into your safe place. Better to play it safe than sorry as this storm continues to move off through some pretty hilly country off towards Guttenberg and the Mississippi River.
Yeah, the good news is that we're still watching the National Weather Service information as well. Justin, do you have any new bits of insight from them.
Up until this point, really no. There's been some chatter about will this be extended into Grant County. We know as this nears the Mississippi, as we alluded to earlier, a big camping weekend. At this point, there aren't any plans. So if you're joining us, Lansing and kind of over towards the Harpers Ferry area north of Guttenberg along the river, certainly be mindful of it. You can see the Guttenberg City Cam, the bottom right side of your screen, as that storm just starts to enter Guttenberg now. I call your attention to the trees that are on the left, kind of noting some of the winds that are picking up. We're seeing more lightning. But at this point, what we're seeing is once these are allowed to expire, this just might be it, at least for the leading edge of these more intense and storms that have been bringing that tornadic threat.
Now you can see on that full screen view of our Guttenberg City Cam where there's light on the left side of your screen, and then there isn't on the right side of your screen. So that would be the portion of the storm that we would be concerned with potentially. So you can see that the clouds here are lower than they are in the surrounding areas. That may be some hint of perhaps a little bit of a lowering in the storm. It's not totally clear from our point of view, and of course we're looking through some rain as well as we try to adjust the camera a little bit. It can only look so high. Fire department there just chimed in with some pea-sized hail being reported, so that's good that it's at least on the smaller size, but they may yet see some of that hail get a bit larger as the storm gets a little bit closer. But for now, we're just going to keep a close eye on that storm as it moves in. That southeasterly wind would be favorable for the potential for the storm to continue to rotate at the very least. But yeah, it's just at this point, just on that limit of where it would be threatening enough, but also not showing really clear signs and really obvious signs of becoming more dangerous as it moves northeastward. So this is about the best possible outcome you can have when a tornado warning is in place, but of course all tornado warnings should be treated with respect and with the potential that a tornado could develop at any time. Just because we aren't seeing one at the moment doesn't mean that it couldn't happen in a big hurry, and sometimes it does. Just spins up in a really quick nature and gives you little time to react. That's why that warning's in place.
You've been mentioning the Marshall County area. Marshalltown, that storm there looks like it's starting to intensify again there as we look at the reflectivity on the radar. This would, if it keeps its kind of current track, clip far northern kind of Tama County and working its way over towards the Cedar Valley again. But you can see the last few updates there, a little bit more intensity, at least from the whiteout, where we saw maybe the potential for some hail as that continues to ride along the boundary there.
Mm-hmm. And it's showing a very weak sign of rotation with it too, which is not uncommon in a lot of storms, even storms that don't produce severe weather. Sometimes you see that sort of development take place. So even outside of, again, as you've just pointed out, Justin, outside of warnings, still plenty of hefty storm activity despite that. So you will want to be heading indoors if you live in up toward the Conrad area, anywhere east on Highway 96 between that area and Traer. As these storms move through Grundy Center, you're just about outside of some of the heavier rain, but not quite. And then we're watching those areas up toward Rhinebeck as well. So that's what we've got. I understand that I'm going to go ahead and move our view on the lower right temporarily from Guttenberg. AJ is kind of taking a look at our Cassville City Cam as well. Some ominous looking clouds, AJ, but sort of similar to the Guttenberg picture where we may not be seeing imminent development, but certainly we're looking across the Mississippi River back toward Iowa and lowering for sure wall cloud probably.
Most definitely, yeah. Especially what I'm looking at is kind of off to the left side of your screen there where those really dark colors dip all the way down to the, well, really off to the left side of your screen, and then you'll see that little stripe of white kind of just above the top of the trees as you kind of pan your gaze over to the right. That's where we're keeping an eye out for some of those, or for, like you mentioned, Corey, the potential for a wall cloud. Looks like there's, I think I'm picking up on maybe a little bit of broad rotation in the clouds. I'm not, looks like potentially. But again, if just based on the structure of the storm, the location of the storm, certainly the rotating area of it does look to be in frame right now of our Cassville City Cam. And as this storm continues to track by Cassville, it should end up passing right in front of the city cam, so we should get a pretty good view at the underside of it here as it continues to track off to the northeast.
And that being said, the warning is about to Well, rather, the storm is about to outrun the warning. Let's get that straight. The National Weather Service has not taken action on that just yet. This storm could be producing large hail too. And Guttenberg, even though you're not in the tornado warning, we got that report of heavier rain and some pea-sized hail as it moves off to the northeast. But the National Weather Service in La Crosse will have a decision coming up in terms of what to do with this warning. They have, over the last little while, been a little skeptical of the tornadic potential with this storm, but of course that can change in a hurry. Looks like we just got a report from Emergency Management, Justin, in Clayton County, and this is actually not with this storm, though.
Yeah, this would be with that storm that's just, yeah, you're kind of highlighting it right there, north of Strawberry Point, crossing over Highway 13 right now. They're reporting some rotation with that north of Strawberry Point, kind of looking up towards the Volga area. So right about dead, I would say probably about a couple inches there of that Highway 13 marker you're seeing there, if we were to kind of pinpoint a spot on it, right about that neck of the woods there.
Yeah, a little bit shown up there as well. It looks like they have extended the tornado warning for portions of Clayton and Grant County. No shock there. Notice that the shape of this warning points it a little bit more to the east, so we've seen a little bit of change perhaps in the way that this storm is tracking, maybe a little bit more of an east-northeast instead of northeast direction. And so they have included portions of Clayton County as well as southwestern Grant County in this new warning. It goes until 3:30 this afternoon. Golf ball-sized hail as well as tornadic threat with this storm as it tracks to the east-northeast. Again, it is moving fairly slowly, still at about 25 miles per hour. So we'll give you the latest indication here using a storm track about who could be impacted by this. We're going to give you a pretty broad look at it, just so you know, for basically the entire warning area. Guttenberg, within moments, the area of rotation is passing very close to you. It does look like it may stay just to the south, but wouldn't mess with it if you can. Cassville, you'll get involved at about 3:03, so it is moving generally toward our city campsite, which is the good news there. North Andover, 3:10. B-Town in Grant County, we're talking 3:18. Slabtown at about 3:25. 5 Points at 3:28, and Hurricane, Wisconsin, at 3:31. That's a new one for me, but I'll keep that in mind for the future. It's a nice name for a city for a meteorologist. The storm continues to show area of rotation in rural Clayton County at this point, but it is sort of the area of the storm that we're watching in the lower right corner of your screen, that area of lowering in the storm and some ragged cloud edges. But at this point, no indication of a specific funnel cloud or tornado, which is good news. But AJ, I know that the storm continues to maintain its strength and the potential for rotation.
It does. It continues, like you mentioned, to kind of track right along as it has been doing. We have a very clear view of it in our Cassville City Cam there. Been looking at the rotation on the storm, and it certainly has maintained that rotation as it continues to track off kind of to the east-northeast now. It's taken just a little bit of a right turn to its path, it appears. I've been checking to see if there's any kind of definitive sign of debris getting picked up by this storm. And again, nothing that's definitive. As we kind of get the next couple of radar scans, that I think is going to tell us a lot. Of course, you can see in our city cam there, not seeing any definitive funnel coming out of the clouds too, which is always a good sign. But again, a storm that should be taken seriously. If you are in Millville, it is just north of you. If you live on the north side of Millville, you need to be in your safe place right now, right along Noble Road. Anywhere near the Merritt Forest State Preserve, you need to be in your safe place as well. Turkey River Mounds at Turkey River Mound State Preserve, if you live anywhere in that area, you need to be in your safe place as well. Along Estes Ridge Trail, Noble Road, Nature Avenue, you guys are in the path of this storm. Along Jolly Ridge Road as well. So anywhere in those spots, the storm is about to move through your area. Nelson Dewey State Park, you guys are also in this extension of the warning. And this is a storm that, again, is rotating. At this point, still radar indicated, but it continues to track off to the east-northeast and continues to rotate enough that there is that threat that at some point it could potentially produce a tornado.
For sure. So if you are in this new warning, don't forget the things that you should do when a tornado warning is issued. It includes going to the lowest level of your home. If you don't have a basement, that would be obviously the ground floor. If you do, get underground. That is the best option. Get under something sturdy as well. That is a good way to keep yourself safe. Grab your bike helmet if in lieu of that. Blankets, pillows, towels, they're good to have on hand in case a tornado affects your area. That will help protect your head and neck. And then we also strongly suggest that you avoid windows, doors, outside walls. That's especially applicable to folks that have to seek shelter on the lowest floor of your home. Put as many walls between you and the storm as you can. An interior room, closet, or an interior bathroom is always a good idea. That's a popular spot, and usually those have some of those pipes in the walls that may help a little bit as well in terms of strengthening that wall just ever so slightly. So that is what you need to do if you're in this new tornado warning. That includes portions of Clayton County as well as portions of Grant County. Why don't we take a look at our, I believe, Max 2. Let's take a look at it full screen and just kind of look at the storm as it is. That is an area of lowering, the area of rotation in this storm is what we're observing right now, potentially where the storm would be producing or could be producing rotation that could develop into a tornado. We're going to take off part of the statistics there to just take a closer look. At this point, nothing imminent, but we've got a good eye on it using this view as well. So that's helpful as the storm continues moving off to the east-northeast. At this point, it's staying in Clayton County, but it's about to cross the Mississippi River and head toward Cassville. So areas in that portion right along the Mississippi River will want to watch out. Looks like the Cassville ferry is coming in, which is interesting, but they will be ashore very soon, and hopefully the ferry operators will be seeking shelter as well in Cassville as it comes down the river. At this point, the storm is just outside of that area. But gentlemen, as we look at it, the rotation, if it's there, and I can maybe kind of see it, is not especially strong or rapid.
It's broad and slow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which is good. That is good in that it is not imminently producing any sort of well-defined funnel cloud or tornado. However, it is still rotating. It's still a storm that has the potential to do so in a pretty big hurry, and that's why the warning continues. But we're hopeful, at least at this point, that we just see more of this and we don't see that change anytime soon. But as noted, we've got a pretty good look at it here, so that's the good news. And we'll continue to keep an eye on that as well as pinpoint Doppler radar.
Absolutely. Excellent example here of putting our CityCam network to use. And again, this is about the best situation you can ask for in terms of being able to have eyes on it from a safe perspective, being you can watch it from home. Hopefully the operator of the ferry there, like Corey mentioned, will get to shore quickly and get tied up and wait this one out, because it does look like the storm is slow moving, but eventually will, of course, pass through Cassville, cross the Mississippi River, and trek on off to the east-northeast towards Beattown, if I'm seeing that correctly.
B-Town.
B-Town, excuse me.
No beats, just bees.
It might be worth note, just to kind of go back towards the west a little bit, Clayton County Emergency Management relaying courtesy of the Elkader Fire Department. Highway 13 around Elkader, they're picking up on some rotation there. Chicken Ridge, just kind of an east and west road that takes you almost from East Elkader kind of back towards eastern parts of the Clayton County area there. But they said a little bit ago they're picking up on some rotation with spotters they had out there along 13 this afternoon.
Yeah, and you can see it a little bit on our view from our velocity picture too. It's broad, so it'd be perhaps even a bit broader than what we're seeing in Clayton County on the Cassville CityCam. But it's showing a little sign there, and what happened was we went from sort of that messy interaction of storms to a little bit more of that single storm. So this is kind of the evolution of the storm that was over Fayette County that had a tornado warning earlier, and it still is on that boundary that we've been talking about that could provide a little bit of enhanced spin in the atmosphere that could result in some strengthening. Right now, no tornado warning, as you said, Justin, but I'm sure the National Weather Service in La Crosse is watching very closely. But the storm of the hour still remains the one that's crossing from Clayton County into Grant County, and our Cassville CityCam highlights what we're watching there in terms of the picture in your lower right corner. But those storms tracking east-northeastward, the one in Clayton and Grant County moving a bit more eastward than northeastward, which sometimes these rotating storms do. It shows that it's pretty well organized.
Yep, and like you mentioned, these storms taking advantage of, well, what you often need to get storms to rotate and develop into storms that can produce tornadoes, and that's a warm, moist, unstable environment. You need the winds and your wind shear set up just right, and they're utilizing that boundary that they've been very slowly riding along all afternoon. And like Justin mentioned, now you can kind of see, you can see that rotation on that storm just to the northwest of Littleport, in addition to our tornado warned storm that is now just to the west of Cassville. So these both are, well, the one near Littleport at this point doesn't have a warning on it, but does have a little bit of rotation on it. Our Cassville City Cam right now does have that radar indicated rotation. So again, that continues to be the good news. Lots of warnings. We've of course been on top of it and keeping you up to date with where these storms are tracking. But at this point, a few minor damage reports is what we have picked up on. But other than that, nothing definitive and no reports of a tornado on the ground, which of course is a good thing, especially with this storm moving well towards Cassville at this point.
But we do have a picture, I believe, of some minor branch and tree damage near Elgin. This was sent to us from a viewer, I believe, up in northeast Iowa. And you can see, yeah, some damage to that tree. I'm not going to be surprised if we end up hearing more reports like that, even from some of these storms potentially that are just a little bit below severe limits. We've seen some pretty good gusty winds coming in with those as they do. So not too big of a surprise there, but luckily, again, not extreme damage either. You can see much of the tree is still in pretty good shape. So that's some good news as we look ahead.
About half an hour away from, or make that 20 minutes away from Elgin, Maynard in Fayette County. Reporter there, 3.5-inch diameter hail.
Wow.
That's pretty big. That would coincide with that cell that we were watching crossing over 187 about a half hour, 45 minutes ago in Fayette County. So reporter reporting in about 3.5 inches of hail. That would put it at, is that softball?
That is, as AJ pulls out the chart to take a look exactly, that is smaller than softball, but bigger than baseball.
Pretty close, not too far off from softball. 4-inch hail is softball. You said it was 3.5. 3.5, yeah, so not too much smaller than a softball. That is a big hailstone.
That's big hail if that is indeed true and confirmed. And of course, as our viewers did in Elgin, certainly if you have anything to pass along, please do. The U News section on our website. Make sure you're safe and then share it in, and we will certainly analyze here and then might even pass it on to the National Weather Service as well. But make sure you are safe first before you do that.
Always the right call. And it is the top of the hour here in eastern Iowa. We continue our continuous severe weather first alert coverage with the tornado warning for portions of Clayton County and Grant County. That is the only warning in effect as we take a broad view of our pinpoint Doppler radar view. In fact, I'm going to click one thing here and put on a slightly different view that utilizes multiple radar sites. So you can see most of the activity is in that area north of Highway 30, which is where that severe thunderstorm watch continues until 7 o'clock tonight as well. Most storms do not have any sort of warning attached to them. That doesn't mean that they're not intense. Could see some heavy rain, some wind gusts, some hail as well. But at this point, it is the sole warning in portions of Clayton as well as Grant County. So we'll go ahead and pinpoint this and show you this storm. Again, this is using some of that multiple radar view. And we are going to go ahead and switch this to a single radar view. It gives us a better picture of where this storm is headed and what it looks like. This storm, speaking of the potential for large hail, its warning has been changed to the potential for 2.5-inch diameter hail, which is just shy of baseball sized. And I believe we just got a report from the Guttenberg area.
Yeah, a report from the Clayton County Sheriff there. Not only quarter-size hail currently, you just saw a lightning strike there, but trees down on some of the railroad tracks just south of Guttenberg, that area as well.
Yep, so seeing a little bit of damage with the portion of the storm that isn't producing rotation, still a very intense storm and the strongest storm that we've got going at this point around eastern Iowa. That is looking very impressive at this point in terms of the potential for some pretty rough activity as it passes off to the northeast. AJ, you've been very dutifully keeping an eye on the aspects of rotation, and what have you seen so far?
So far, no new news,
Okay.
which is always good news. You see right there that broad area of rotation just to the due north of Cassville right now. It looks like it will pass north of Cassville ultimately as it continues its east-northeasterly trek. But it has not weakened, but it also has not shown any drastic signs of strengthening. So of course that is a good thing. Continues to be radar indicated with no evidence that I have picked up on, or that the National Weather Service has not picked up on, of there being any debris picked up into this storm. At this point, nothing super definitive that I am picking up on. It's like still radar indicated, yeah. So again, one of those where keeping a close eye on it, but at this point appears that it continues to maintain its strength, not producing a tornado, but still producing some pretty good-sized hail. In fact, let's put a hail size tracker on it. So yeah, there you go, showing indications of ping pong ball, and of course the warning is for 2.5-inch hail, which is getting pretty close to baseball size. So large hail with it. Again, tornado warned for that rotation. Certainly not a storm to mess with. A storm if you are in Guttenberg, Cassville, B-Town. Want to make sure that you are in your safe place, getting out of the way of it.
One of the other concerns that this will kind of quickly transition to, and we're already starting to see it where these storms have rolled through, is flash flooding. Getting some reports, Bremer County Emergency Management around the Reedland area, flash flooding near over the road status in some spots there. National Weather Service issuing flash flood watch for areas along and south of this line. This would include what's yet to come potential for this afternoon into Lynn County, into Johnson County, some of our more major areas, just because some of the impressive rainfall amounts we've seen upstream with these storms that are currently going through now.
Yeah, and Justin, to that point, not just the flash flooding, but the National Weather Service has been updating its river flooding outlooks now at this point based on some of the rain that's fallen and the potential rain that could fall in the next 36 hours as well. So we caution that these forecasts are based on forecasts at this point. So if the rain doesn't materialize, or if it falls in a different location, or if it's heavier or lighter, these will likely change. But you can see the entire Cedar River Basin at this point effectively will either be near or above at least minor flood stage. In many cases, up toward Charles City, they're headed for moderate flooding potentially. I know that the Cedar Falls gauge, its forecast keeps it just shy of moderate flooding. Now, in many cases, the impacts at these levels are relatively low, but it just shows that the rivers will be rising in the coming days. And that's another thing to keep in mind as well when we're talking about the holiday weekend. Folks get out on their boats and take, other watercraft out on some of these area rivers and streams. Canoes on those smaller streams as they're high are not suggested to be going out on the kayak.
Well, and unfortunately, this is also prime setup for a lot of small towns who are going to have festivals tomorrow and Saturday. They're setting those up, and I know that. I've been in contact with the folks in Buchanan County. They're kind of watching carefully what's coming out of Marshall, Tama, and Benton counties moving up towards the north and east. No warnings at this point, but certainly the potential for another round to roll through here yet in the next 45 minutes to an hour or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we'll just have, that'll be an ongoing story over the next few days to see what exactly plays out there. But that's just sort of your first alert to the potential for some of that development. Now, we still have this tornado warning for portions of Clayton and Grant counties. It looks like Clayton County, you're largely getting out of this area. If we put it over to the single radar site, you can see that the storm is pretty much crossing the Mississippi River at this point. Not quite, though. It's still got a little ways to go. And so we are, of course, still keeping an eye on it. However, the warning continues as a result as it goes until 3:30 this afternoon, progressing off to the east. You can see on our Cassville City Cam in the lower right corner, the rain is even starting to let up there, and some of the indication of any sort of stormy activity starting to let up there too. But the wind, you can see the flag on the ferry there, still blowing quite strongly, and you may see some gusty conditions even outside of that. So that is the storm that has a warning with it at this point. That is the one that we are still carrying our coverage through as a result.
You can really see that camera shaking in the wind all of a sudden there in Cassville.
Yep, and it's not the only storm in Clayton County, and more storms extend back. Waterloo, Cedar Falls, it's been a stormy afternoon. Not far away down the road, Vinton, Cedar Rapids, it's been just another hot and humid one with mixed clouds and sun, and just enjoying calm weather at this point. But the possibility of more storm development as we go into the evening and night is there. So we're not out of the woods in those areas either.
Definitely not. And for all of these spots, again, heavy rainfall. Corey, you had mentioned, river levels rising. It's been a little while since we've gotten excessively heavy rainfall, at least in the Cedar Rapids area. But this rainfall, good to a point, but then it gets to the point where it can be too much. So that'll be something worth monitoring, especially with us getting repeated rounds of showers and storms as we go through the next 48 hours and through the 4th of July. It'll also be interesting to see how this round of shower and storm activity impacts the next round, since that is kind of the weather pattern that we're in, where you saw it play out in real time. That's why we're here with you. Rain and storms from this morning impacted these storms this afternoon and evening. The boundary that was left over from that shower and storm activity provided the boundary that these storms ultimately ended up kind of hooking onto and beginning to rotate and ending up tornado warned. So one of those where one round impacts the next, and we'll have to keep a close eye on it and see how this impacts the next round of showers and storms that moves through.
Some other storms moving through portions of Clayton County as well, as we've shown you. The storm that's moving into Grant County has shown kind of a lack of organization in the last immediate moments, which is a good sign. The area of rotation is less well-defined compared to what we saw a little bit ago as it was tracking through southern Clayton County, but still a tornado warning continues. You can see other areas of storm activity exhibiting potentially some gusty winds based on their radar signatures, but at this point, no well-defined areas of clear rotation. The area near Arlington has seen, again, some pretty heavy rainfall and potentially some gusty winds. Elkader area, potentially seeing some of that activity as well. Fayette, Olwine, which has already seen plenty. That is what we are seeing there. And I believe we're getting some new updates. Potentially, you see any reports, Justin? I might see.
No real reports. Some minor winds, 30 to 40 mile an hour around Benton County. More so just now the issuance, like we were speaking to a little bit ago, flood watches and flash flood warnings and stuff like that because of the rain that's coming versus the rain, in addition to the rain that has fallen to the north. Estimated radar rates this morning in just over the Iowa-Minnesota border, over 10 inches of rain. Now, granted, that's a radar estimate, but certainly all that rain, luckily that far north, a lot of it works its way to the Mississippi, but it hits a lot of small creeks and streams on the way before it gets there. Of news of note, flood watch would now be for the Cedar River and Cedar Rapids down through Cowansville. One of the newest ones, what's yet to come.
And this, what you're seeing on your screen, are radar estimates just from the past 6 hours. So that even cuts out what fell earlier this morning, AJ, when you were here doing the morning show. It's been a long day for you, that's for sure. But we thank you for sticking around. We've got plenty of rain that has fallen just in the recent term. And we're likely to add more rain on top of this as we go into the night and tomorrow, and at least portions of Saturday as we kick off the holiday weekend. We'll have a more in-depth first alert forecast coming up on our evening newscasts. And you can, of course, find it on our First Alert Weather app and KCRG.com right now if you want more information in the immediate future. But the initial indication is that some of this storm activity may not be as widespread on the 4th as initially feared, which could be good news for people with big holiday plans.
Absolutely, that'd be a great sign. So something we will have to keep a close eye on. Hopefully we'll get kind of a little bit of a, like you said, quieter setup by the time we get to your Saturday evening. I know this morning as we were going through the forecast and looking at all the models, looked like Saturday morning there could potentially be some activity. But then again, if we can get to a quieter afternoon and evening, that's when a lot of folks are getting out and about and doing their grilling, their cookouts, of course, fireworks shows that night. So certainly something to cross our fingers for as we get closer to that point.
I would say since at this point the area of potential rotation with the tornado warning has crossed the Mississippi River, we're going to go ahead and plan to head back to regular programming. That warning continues for Grant County though, so we're going to stick with you if you're watching us on our streaming services. That includes on our YouTube channel as well as KCRG.com and the KCRG app for your smart TVs and smart devices. We're going to stick with you for a little bit longer once we send back to programming on television, but just do remember that areas along and north of Highway 30 are still under a severe thunderstorm watch, even those areas that have seen one round of storms move through. So don't necessarily let your guard down as we go through the rest of the evening. On behalf of meteorologist AJ Rickman as well as Justin Roberts, we are going to now send you back to regular programming. Thank you for joining us for this coverage as well as trusting us in the case of severe weather. We, of course, are very grateful. Stay with your trusted local news and weather source, KCRG TV9. All right, and we are still here with you on streaming. So we are going to stick with some additional coverage as that storm continues for Grant County. Justin, thank you for joining us.
I don't know if my mic gets picked up on this or not, but
it does. If not,
I'll just speak
you're standing
close.
close enough to me. We are close enough friends where that's okay. But we are hopeful that we're getting out of the worst of it.
Now I think the case becomes more of rain and flash flooding and obviously some marginally severe storms. But right before we wrapped up our television coverage, AJ kind of alluded to what looks to be maybe some of that timing, more like late night into early morning, where you get that round after round, and rivers that are already a little bit swollen will be kind of a big concern to watch the next couple of days.
Indeed, and there is a new severe thunderstorm warning, of course, for portions of Fayette and Clayton counties. We've seen some reports of some gustier winds you were talking about earlier in rural Clayton County.
Rural Clayton County, 40 to 50 mile an hour winds. Fairbank and Fayette kind of over towards the Bremer County area, about a 46 to 50. But yeah, this new warning, this kind of over some of those same areas. We've been watching Highway 13, Edgewood, Elkader, and spots like that. There have been a lot of spotters out, and certainly that's why we put them out there. They know what to look for, and certainly they're seeing some more of those. Looks to be some hail and some stronger winds with this too.
Indeed. So we're going to pause for a moment and join our coverage just for a brief moment on KCRG TV9 as well. So stick with us. Just 1 second. I'm meteorologist Corey Thompson here in the TV9 First Alert Weather Lab with a new severe thunderstorm warning for far southeastern Fayette County, much of the southern 2/3, let's say, of Clayton County, as well as western Grant County. This goes until 4:15 this afternoon. 60-mile-per-hour winds, quarter-sized hail, with a number of thunderstorms moving through the area. I believe the primary threat is going to be with the storm that is located between Strawberry Point and east of Fayette, and it's all with a line that's moving east at about 35 miles per hour. Hail is a bit of a threat, again, quarter-sized hail. Considering that we have seen some reports of that already today, that is what the National Weather Service is keeping an eye on. But due to the configuration, and again, based on reports we've seen today, winds would also be a threat. So Strawberry Point, the storms are moving through. The Elkader area at about 329, Edgewood at 332, Elkport at 338, Garnavillo closer to 345, Osterdock at about 349. It gets toward the Cassville area, one storm that had that tornado warning moving through, and now this next warning, that storm will get there at about 4:05. This storm, again, moving to the east at about 35 miles per hour. We'll put the radar in motion to show you there is a pretty heavy storm in far eastern Clayton County as well. And of course, the tornado warning for Grant County continues until 3:30. We will be keeping an eye on these storms. If you'd like more information on these storms, we will be continuing our coverage on KCRG.com and our streaming services. For now, though, we will send you back to regular programming here on TV9. Stay with your trusted local news source, KCRG TV9.
luck with the rest of your day.
Thanks. We are continuing here on the First Alert live stream. Severe weather continues to be a threat for portions of the TV9 viewing area. It's this severe thunderstorm warning that includes Fayette, Clayton, and Grant County, and that tornado warning for far western Grant County. That is our chief concern at this point. Storms moving to the east about 30 to 35 miles per hour primarily, although the Grant County storm is moving a little bit slower. If you live within the warned area, you will want to seek shelter. Large hail is a possibility, damaging wind also a possibility as these storms pass by. The threat for tornadic development seems low at this point based on information we have using radar data as well as spotter reports, but of course we've seen that change in a hurry this afternoon from time to time, so we will be monitoring it very, very closely. At this point, the potential for damaging wind is with the line that you see in the western side of this severe thunderstorm warning. So we'll go ahead and pinpoint that first. It's the area between Strawberry Point and Elyria, east of Arlington. And so that is moving off to the east and will cross Highway 13. Elkader about to get involved in that. But there's also this other storm within the warning that's near the Garnavillo area that could be producing some pretty large hail as well. That is a possibility. We don't have reports to that effect, but it is a potential as the storm moves off to the east. The latest report from the National Weather Service was Glen Haven and Grant County got 2-inch hail. So we have not had a shortage of that this afternoon. But at this point, fortunately, we are seeing no new reports from this storm. So if you live in the warned area, we strongly encourage you to seek shelter indoors, stay away from outside windows and walls, and just stay in until this storm passes in case that it is able to strengthen and produce more severe weather. For the time being, we are going to leave our anchored coverage for just a moment in order to gain our bearings and reset what we're doing here in the weather lab after our long tornado coverage. Thank you for joining us. We will be back with more information as we go through the afternoon, but for the time being, we will put up some information available and stick with us for more updates. Hi there, I'm meteorologist Corey Thompson with this look at a new severe thunderstorm warning that has been issued for northern Delaware and northern Dubuque counties. It's for the threat of 60-mile-per-hour winds and perhaps some quarter-sized hail. It's based on radar indicated storms that are moving out of southern Clayton County and will move through the very far northern portions of Delaware and Dubuque County. You can see most of the storm activity is still off to the north in Clayton County, but some of those areas that are north of Highway 20, anywhere along Highway 3 would have that potential. So we're talking up toward Backbone State Park, Dundee, Greeley, Oneida, New Vienna, Holy Cross, and over toward Bankston as well. Colesburg, Edgewood, you're both right on the edge of two different severe thunderstorm warnings, so you'll get involved in the potential for some strong and gusty winds as well. We're going to put a storm track on this storm. That tornado warning for Grant County is just about to expire, but it's the severe thunderstorm warnings that we are joining you at this moment for. It's moving east at about 45 miles per hour. So the latest arrival times would be, as we add this track, Edgewood at about 328, so it's already in your neighborhood. Elkport at about 332, Greeley at 336, Colesburg closer to 342. Guttenberg, you're already under a warning, and it will be this line of storms approaching you at 343. Some other storms in between. Millville closer to 347 in Clayton County. Holy Cross, as mentioned, in Dubuque County, closer to 358, and so that is another spot to watch out for up in that area. Again, gusty winds, large hail, the main threats to come with these storms. As we mentioned, there is a severe thunderstorm warning that continues for portions of Clayton County into Grant County too. Same storms, same threats, 60-mile-per-hour winds and perhaps up to $half-sized hail in a couple of these areas. And we are still tracking, of course, other areas of storm activity, most without warnings, but still plenty of heavy rain and lightning near the Waterloo-Cedar Falls area and slowly moving to the east. A severe thunderstorm watch continues until 7 p.m. tonight as it goes, and that will be for portions of areas north of Highway 30. So to repeat, new severe thunderstorm warning, northern Delaware and northern Dubuque counties. This goes until 4:15. We'll be tracking things both here on KCRG TV9 and on our streaming platforms. You can join us there for additional coverage as the afternoon rolls on and new warnings here on TV9. Thanks, and stay with your trusted local news source, KCRG TV9.